first ever Fully Loaded podcast. I'm Jared. Sitting next to me is Tony.
Hey guys, how's everyone going?
I'm doing pretty good. When this airs, the A Fully Loaded Christmas will have been wrapped up as a nice bow, as they say, on the holiday season. And our first guest for the Fully Loaded podcast will be Darin Corbin. He'll be on in a bit, but let's talk about Fully Loaded Christmas first. What was your favorite match of this weekend, Tony? The people can watch on Fully Loaded TV on YouTube.
I gotta say, last night, night one, December 18th, it was probably Bearded Friends Forever with Submission Squad. That was a hell of a tag match. Great, awesome job there. And then looking forward to tonight with a triple threat tag team match for the tag titles. That's going to be amazing with Guns of Beer.
Yep, and that's available. It'll either be available in the future, or if you're listening to this at a later date, it's already available on Fully Loaded TV on YouTube. Just check us out, subscribe to that. And thanks to Mob Run Productions and Sound for setting up the video, the audio, and all that fun stuff. And if you have a need, if you're a wrestler or if you do weddings and you need video editing, Mob Run Productions and Sound does all kinds of highlight reels and video editing, including entrance themes for audio. If you're a wrestler, hit up mobrunrecords@gmail.com or hit them up on facebook.com/mobrunsound.
Mob Run Pro Sound. That's what it says.
Mob Run Pro Sound, sorry about that.
Jeez, man.
Should I do that again?
No, it's good.
All right. Edit that out.
No, it'll be fine. Just leave this, go raw dog it. Be fine.
Also announced this evening by Commissioner Barclay was the next month in January we have Gangrel. We are going to Williston for FLW presents Embrace the Darkness.
Yeah, we had a great time in Williston last time around. We were there, and June was huge. Let's try to do it again in January. Everyone get out there, bring your friends, family, grandma, whatever. Just get everyone out there.
The last time we were in Williston was November 20th and 21st at the Grand Williston Hotel for FLW Cup 2015, won by none other than the Minnesota Mafia. The FLW heavyweight champion, Darin Corbin, was the team captain for that.
Yeah, and, well, we've seen what they've been doing with the Cup. It's been fun.
You can check them out on social media. You know, Darin Corbin's on Twitter at Darin Corbin, and I know Venom and Cody Rice have been taking pictures with the Cup, and they keep wandering around with it, so you can check out all the misadventures of the Cup, apparently. I didn't expect it to become a thing that they take out to dinner, but I guess when you can't get a date, that's what happens.
I guess so, yeah. It's been fun watching.
Cody Rice is a lonely man, I think.
It seems that way, for sure.
So, but I think you and I can wrap things up here with us, and I'll start my interview with Darin Corbin here in just a moment. We're gonna pause for a quick sponsorship break, and then we will pick it back up with the FLW heavyweight champion Darin Corbin.
See you on the flip side. Thanks.
Hey, Fully Loaded podcast listeners, this is Chris from Spot Monkey Media, and we are a proud sponsor of the Fully Loaded podcast. Spot Monkey Media is creative design for the wrestling professional. Not in the wrestling business, we work outside the ropes. Get custom designs for t-shirts, event posters, business cards, and much more. SpotMonkeyMedia.com. Create your legacy.
All right, welcome back to the Fully Loaded podcast. I'm sitting here with the first ever FLW heavyweight champion, Darin Corbin. How you doing today?
I'm good. What a great choice for your first pick to have on the show.
Well, you know, might as well be the first champ, first guest.
Yeah. First and only champion. Remember that.
That's true.
All right.
Is it 280 days now? Like that?
You know, I lose count because I know that it's going to be infinity. You know, it's hard.
Yeah. Well, let's dive right into it. So you made your debut in 2004, but where was little Darin? What got you into wrestling?
Okay, so when I started, we had just I was 4 years old and I had moved. And the only thing we had set up at the time was a TV, and only got 4 radio stations. Or, sorry, 4 TV stations. And one of the stations had Main Event on. And so it was the only thing I watched, so I was watching that. And I instantly I felt like I was hooked right there. But what really did me in, my grandma was actually a closet wrestling fan.
Mine too.
So, yeah, and the thing was my grandpa didn't like it. Now, his dad was one of those when AWA was on.
Yeah.
Everything stopped. You know, like, it was intense. So, like, my grandma knew this, and she knew AWA and everything. So when she found out I was a wrestling fan, like, when he would leave, she would watch wrestling with me. So we would watch wrestling together, and we were watching, like, you know, WWF and, you know, WCW, NWA, WCW, all that stuff. So eventually what ended up happening was I would wrestle the Invisible Man in the living room.
Yep.
And she would pretend to be the audience, and she would react and play along. So she
I had one of those plush Ultimate Warrior ones.
Oh yeah. I had the Macho Man wrestling buddy.
I wanted the Macho Man one. My mom got me the wrong one.
So I had the Macho Man one, and that's like, I still have that. That's like a toy I can't part with. And but that's how it ended up starting. Is I would wrestle the Invisible Man, wrestle that, and she would pretend to react as I was like playing my favorite character.
Yeah.
So she kind of was the reason why I got so into wrestling.
That's awesome. So 2004 is your debut. Who was your first match?
It was actually against Ryan Cruz. Yes.
You guys have been going that long?
Yeah. Ryan and I, it was both our debut matches against each other at MPW.
Okay.
And so it was our first start. Came out. I was with brother Aaron, and then it was him, and we had our first match, and then so we've been paired together ever since.
Yep. And you guys are the North Star Express
Yep.
and tag champions for WrestlePalooza now, right?
Yes, current WrestlePalooza tag team champions right now at the moment. We started teaming like shortly later in 2004, and then just kind of like depending on where we would go, it was off and on. And so I mean, obviously, before Fully Loaded, there was Northern Outlaw.
Yep.
We were tag champions here. So yeah, we've kind of just all over Chikara, all that stuff. So
Yep. So who trained you?
I was trained by Eric Cannon.
I think I knew that, but I wanted to, for the audience.
I started I started at MPW, as I said, and the deal was there was two guys, Sheriff Johnny Emerald and Shifty. And at the time, like Sheriff was definitely doing like more of the basics in camp, and Cannon kind of took over with a lot of the stuff, and he saw the guys who had potential or that he thought had potential. He took them under his wing.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I remember reading, I was a big independent fan. I would read PWI magazine, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And Cannon would show up in promotions that I liked. Chikara, I was into CCW, all that stuff. So I was like, you wrestle for the places that I want to go. And, IWA Mid-South, he was really big at the time. And he was like, do you want to travel and do this? And that was always one of my goals. I didn't want to be big fish, small pond. I like to travel. I wanted to see the world with wrestling.
Let's get uncomfortable and get out of my comfort zone.
Exactly.
Let's wrestle not in front of my family.
I feel like that's the only way you get better and learn. And I remember he told me, he goes, okay, well, I'll help you get your foot in the door, but if you mess it up, we're done. I was like, fair enough.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I was like, fair enough. Like, he'll help me with his connections trying to get through. I was like, that's totally fine. Then I will, do my best. And at that time too, when I started traveling, MPW had shut down in 2005. So I took it upon myself where I knew it was like kind of the make or break, really. It's like, I got to impress here, otherwise I have nothing.
Nowhere to go.
It was like back against the wall. So I was glad that he definitely helped me, and then he continued to train and help me get better with, being on the road, seeing the different styles. Hey, if we're going to go here, this is what we got to do, this is what you got to do, this is what it's going to be like, stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't think he'll appreciate us saying that that he was nice to you.
Well, he wasn't nice to me. I mean, like, he definitely needed somebody to, like, when he was drinking PBR to help drive.
Yeah, he needed a designated driver.
Yeah, luckily he found was, straight edge kid to help him do that. So yeah, no, that'd be Cam.
Recently you posted on Facebook that in one night you heard you had the best match of the night, the worst match of the night. Everyone hated it. This is the worst. All your matches are played out. That was your best match. What is it like being that polarizing? You get that huge of a spectrum.
See, it's very odd because I never thought that I would be like that. I mean, like, I always thought that for a while it was weird. I was like, yeah, people just don't like me, because like they don't like comedy or they don't like whatever.
Yeah.
So I was like, fine, I'll just be most hated. And then I had people who started liking me, and I was like, you know what, you guys are confusing. I can't just.
Well, that's usually what happens is the bad guy eventually gets cheered.
Yeah, I think ever since, kind of like the mid '90s, I think that was
the Attitude Era.
The cool, you could have the cool bad guys.
Yep.
So it was funny because I always know that there's different preferences in wrestling, and I know there's stuff that people like and don't like and whatever, and I think that's one of the benefits or great parts about wrestling is there's a little bit of something for everybody. And I'm a comedy guy. Yes, that's true.
Yep.
I feel I can still wrestle. I can still do a different.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've seen matches where you do the comedy, but also when you need to get serious, you can have a very good serious match.
Yeah, and I feel it's all time and place. Do I like comedy? Yes. Do I think comedy is a whole different whole different monster, a whole different style? Sure. Do I think it can be done very poorly? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. A lot of people can do it very poorly. so I hear all these things and I see all this stuff, and and like I'll read.
Does it
whatever.
bug you?
What?
Does the negativity bug you, or is it just at this point you're just like, I don't care?
So it's weird. I would love to go on here and be like, no, it doesn't bother me.
I'm super
because
cool.
I have tough skin, but it's weird. What bothers me for really odd reasons. The things that get to me, I'm very much like, okay, you don't, what you're putting, or if this is the worst thing you've ever seen, or this, or like the ignorance of a statement, or something like that. And when I see how people respond, I'm like, okay, there's a lot of factors that could go in. I could explain this a little bit more. That's the stuff that gets me, because I want to say something and be like, you don't get this, and this is why I do this.
Yeah. But then you're sinking down to the troll level, and it's.
And then I feel like I could be writing a book trying to explain how, and then I'm doing the same thing. I'm just trying to like state my opinion as fact, and it's whatever. So, I feel like we have to, respect the idea that everyone's going to have an opinion. We know. You can see on your timelines through Facebook and social media, you can be like, okay, well, this person who clearly knows nothing about politics is posting about politics, like for some reason every 4 years, like right before elections, everyone seems to know the best thing. And it's the same with wrestling. And but there's nothing wrong. I don't think we should stifle anyone's opinion, but like if I were to sit down and talk with somebody, here's how it is. That's what they think. I always believe you can agree to disagree as well, and I think a lot of people have that problem where it's like we all have to like the same thing, and that's not the case. And also, in the same sense, I think that's what makes wrestling great. We all have things that we like.
It's different,
it doesn't matter.
And that's one thing in Fully Loaded that we try to do is we do have some comedy, but at times we can also be very serious, and we try to hit the full spectrum of. We have kids that come to the show, and then we also have adults who want to see really good action, and that's our goal, is to have a great match that if you come here and you're a fan of WCW, you can see a hard-nosed match like that. And then also, if you're a little kid, you can come and enjoy Farmer Frog or Piranha and have a good time with that. And you can watch that on Fully Loaded TV.
And that's the big thing, too, is like, again, we talk about comedy, and it's like, well, you couldn't go to a whole wrestling show and watch a whole show full of comedy.
No.
Like, the reason why a comedy match, I'm doing air quotes on a podcast, which is great.
It's cool. We'll edit it out.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So, a comedy match exists is because you have the serious matches. You have this. You have all these. Like, there's different styles, and again, going back to that variety, you got to provide something for everybody, and that's the range of your demographic too. You can't ostracize somebody for just like, oh, you like this? Well, this is not for you then. But if you have a couple different varieties, then everyone's a part of your show and grows with you.
Yeah. So just change gears here a little bit. You've been around for 11 years. Yeah. Have you ever seen a guy then you just immediately were like, that guy's going somewhere? Like the second you saw him work, or you were like, okay, he's going to be big things. Because you've worked with some of the biggest names in the business now today. Who was the first guy that pops in your mind when you're like, you saw him and you were like, he's going to be huge?
I guess like it was funny the kind of way that like I've seen it where. And I haven't really been on like some of the shows where like these guys come out, like for Evolve or whatever, and you can see them and you're like, okay, that guy eventually is going to get signed. Like recently, like a guy, Sammy Callahan, I guess would have been a good example. I did a match with Callahan like way back when in this random, I don't even remember the town in Indiana. And it was right before, he was right on the cusp, he was right before, and I wrestled him in the style, like,
He also ran with Cannon too, didn't he?
Yes, yeah. And this was definitely like, later down the road where he ran with Cannon.
Yeah.
And I remember him, like, we're talking, he's like, he was telling me about, like, his plans and ambitions, and I was like, yeah, this guy's he's gonna do that. Like, it's really up to him as far as he goes. And clearly, in that time, like, right after that, it was CZW, and, like, he just blew up. And, like, then he was in PWG, and then he was, so, like, Sammy was one of those guys. There was dudes where you'd see, like, you just kind of had a feeling where you're like, that's a guy that's going to be there, Cesaro is one of those guys where you're like, the idea. The longer he was on the independents, you're just like, the fact that
what are
he's
you
not
doing
there,
here?
Yeah. Because, like, you feel like he's everything that they want, and he's so talented. So I feel like there's a lot of guys like that. There's a lot of guys, definitely, that have a lot of talent and are good. It's just once it clicks, then they go. And it's like it's just a matter of finding at the right moment, right time, what they're looking for too. And again, that can be that could be something along the lines of, are they going to get signed? Are they going to go to Japan? What is their goal? When do they start becoming like a name, a household name, a draw? And it's all when it all comes together.
Favorite town to wrestle in?
Favorite town? Oh, that one's tough because
you travel all over. You go to the West Coast, Vegas.
See,
you've been to Europe.
I'm very partial towards Philly. And
makes sense.
And the big thing I was an ECW fan, and I really wanted to wrestle in the ECW arena, and I got that opportunity.
With Chikara?
Yeah, well, actually, the first time I ever did it was a joint show. It was like Chikara and a couple other. I can't even remember what it was. This is way back. It might be 2005, I think.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was way back when. And I remember I wrestled Retail Dragon in the arena. My match was not good. I was not good.
Not to blame Dragon.
No. I'm putting the blame on me on this one. I was very out of my element. But anyway, and then I had a couple, like 6 months later, I had a match for Tag World. That's where JJ was managing North Star Express.
JJ Dillon.
Yep. Against
what
Chris
a cool
Hero.
moment for you, huh?
Yeah, very cool. And that was kind of the match I feel like put us on the map.
Yeah.
So we got a standing ovation. We wrestled the Kings of Wrestling. I don't think people thought we were going to win, but we had them biting at the end that, these guys could upset the future winners.
Hey, you got JJ Dillon in your corner. You
Exactly.
got a shot.
Yeah. And JJ was great. And so with that said, that moment being there and being like, I used to watch some of my favorite matches were from here, and I remember the atmosphere in ECW. Thinking that, and then being in that arena and getting a similar, response, and then seeing how it's grown, I'm like, yeah, Philly is definitely one of my spots that I really enjoy. I love wrestling, close to home. I love being in Minneapolis. It's always nice. First Avenue, obviously, for WrestlePalooza, because that atmosphere you can't top. I've been going out to Vegas, and I really enjoy doing stuff, with Paragon out there, and and even out here for Fully Loaded. Like, it's funny. I think I've described this to just about everybody when I talk about the Vegas Motel here in Minot, where is our home base here for Fully Loaded. I always feel like it's like your family's place, where you go on the holidays, and you're like, it's got that charm to it.
It's like Grandma's house.
Yeah, exactly. So I always kind of feel like when you come back, because I've been here at this venue now for December of 2008 was the first time I came and wrestled here. So that's 7 years that I've been coming to this venue. And it kind of feels like you're home away from home a little bit.
Definitely. I guess, typically you ask what's your favorite match, but you've had so many, so I'll ask, who's been your favorite opponent that you've gotten in there with, and you're like, I know I'm going to have a good match. Even if I'm off, I'll still have a good match with this guy.
There's a couple, Ryan Cruz and I obviously know each other very well.
Yeah.
And I still think in my head, there's a match that we had actually in St. Cloud for a promotion called Echo Pro, a long time ago, where we were kind of given the ball to run with it. We did our thing, and the crowd was great. It was 600 people that was there, which exceeded expectations for this little armory. It was great. It was standing room only. But our match, we got a chance to shine, and it was a real fun match, real fun, and people still talk to me about it this day, about how much they enjoyed it and want to know when we're coming back.
Yeah.
So Ryan's one of those guys, Cannon's one of those guys where I can just get in, either, if we're on the same team or if we're against each other, I think we just naturally have, a chemistry that really works very well. And throughout the years, we've done that up and down the road, and I think, even when it comes to, personal animosity or professional animosity, we can just take it out on each other. I think maybe that's part of the reason why we can do that. But some of my favorite matches that stand out, and I think would be matches or opponents. Jerry Lynn was one of my favorites. Absolute. I got to wrestle Jerry twice.
Awesome. Yeah, I was at his retirement show that you wrestled on, too, against Tommy Dreamer.
And that also goes into one. But I wrestled Jerry back in 2006, and I got a really early opportunity and it was very, I remember being so mentally drained because it was so cool for me to be in the ring with Jerry Lynn, and you learn so much from just being around Jerry all the time. And then on his retirement tour, not on the last show, but leading up to it, I had another match with him. And again, I learned so much, and it was just like you learn how wrestling always changes. And some of the greatest advice I've ever gotten is from Jerry Lynn. He always said that the best thing you can do, in this business is longevity. You like, make yourself always adapt, always be relevant, and always changing. And I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense, because you don't know what opportunities are around the corner.
Right.
So I was like, okay.
I mean, you've been doing this a long time. Do you still watch tape? Do you still look for new things to do?
All the time. I always told myself, I was like, stop. And I guess it fine tunes now, but I said, never stop being a fan. Like, remember that feeling you got when you enjoyed it. Like, I always thought that was a thing, and it's great for me to get to like emote that now, because like I remember watching and like some of my favorites and seeing how that they would react to certain, like how people now I get to transfer it into me. The one thing though is I didn't want it to ever affect the fact where I'd be like, okay, I'm a wrestler, so when I watch myself, a lot of people say either they're their own worst critic, and I think people say that just out of habit.
Yeah.
But I notice a lot of guys just watch their matches for the sake of being like, I'm a pro wrestler, and I wanted to be like, not my worst critic, but what if I did this differently? And then I would watch
why am I doing this again?
Exactly.
The exact same spot and the exact same moment.
And I never wanted to have a match that was just a Darin Corbin match. I wanted to have stuff that was like unique and different. If I'm in the ring with, Eric Cannon, I guess, for example, or I'm in the ring with somebody from a different style, I don't want it to just be, we've seen that before. And that was always a goal of mine. Now, I always kind of learned going through that, yes, because everything's going to change. And, like, I think it's foolish now to not, I mean, obviously I think there's definitely stuff that holds true for years, decades even, and I think that's important, but there's also stuff that you can be like, why is this working in Japan? Why is this working in Mexico? Why can you go to the West Coast and see these crowds going nuts for this style, and then on the East Coast they like this? What is it that ties everything together? Not everything's the same. And it's fun to see the reactions that people have and like what they enjoy, and then being able to take elements of that and putting that in.
Well, it's funny that the indies are kind of that way for like the old territories used to be. Like the South was a gritty style, and then you went up to the East Coast, and the old WWF was very kind of cartoonish, and it was a different styles, and those things still exist. California is a completely different beast than Minnesota.
Yeah.
I mean.
And a lot of times, too, like, that was a big thing about me traveling, as I was like, if I didn't travel, I would never get to see that. I would just assume everything's like Minnesota, which it's not. And I'm not saying anything, like, for me, I'm not saying anything's good or bad or what.
Right.
Like, right or wrong, yes, there's certain things that you can't change, or certain, whatever, but you see what works and what doesn't. And, like, some people, like, you have to break that mold to, like, step out. And, like, a lot of guys who did, like, they weren't conventional. So I like to see what's kind of new, and I always have to keep my finger on the pulse, and like I think it's important. I think it's just like doing research. I watch a lot of old tape and video stuff, and like sometimes I get in this kick where I'm like, I have a match with somebody who reminds me of this, and I have my style, and it's like, well, maybe I should watch these guys and see like kind of what they do. But there's certain stuff where like the theory of it's so old it's new.
Yep.
I love bringing that.
That's one of Paul Heyman's things. He always says, "What's old can be new again."
Yes.
Just give it time.
And maybe you just tweak it, modify it, and make it yours.
Yep.
But
make it a little more modern.
It's so fun, and that's why I think wrestling's great, because it's always ever changing.
Yeah.
And it sticks to its format, but there's so many like you can change this and da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
And I love that. And it was funny with Jerry. Going back to this, like Jerry as an opponent, like you see somebody from such a different background and who's gone through, WCW, ECW, and all this stuff, and you're like, this guy, like even Ring of Honor, he was doing, he's worked
TNA,
all of them.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, Jerry's got this. So what made him? So I watched how he adapted, and then I would watch and see, and it's like, it's also finding that void that no one has. It's like they have a bunch of these guys, so I want to be this, so I fit. Tommy Dreamer, we mentioned, you said at the show that you were at, Dreamer was great for me, especially because I don't think a lot of people took notice of me in Minnesota really until that time, and that was only a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I think people knew what I did, but I think they just kind of looked at it as, oh yeah, he that's Corbin. That's just Corbin doing his
He's
stuff.
just the comedy guy kind
Yeah.
of thing. And then you went out and had a really good match with Tommy Dreamer.
It was funny because I knew I could wrestle. I knew I
Yeah.
could have good matches. And my match with Tommy is by far one of my favorite matches. He did a lot for me in that match to help get me.
Such a good dude.
Yeah.
We had him up here, and you can see that on our Fully Loaded YouTube channel. He went up against Chainsaw King in a street fight, and it was a hell of a match.
Oh, yeah, and I don't think Williston was really
ready for that.
ready for that either, yeah. So because it's always funny when you see how people react to, like, barbed wire and stuff like that come out, because they're like, oh, this is this is different. But, like, and for a guy like Tommy, who I think always appreciates everything about wrestling and, understands how wrestling is going to be based on, like, the future has to survive or the future is going to be how it survives when you have the guys coming in and all this stuff, and you have new guys, and you have to make them. And he did a lot for me, and ever since then, like, it was funny, because, like, people were like, oh, yeah, you had a really good match with Tommy, and it was like,
yeah, no shit.
yeah, I was like, yeah, and I was waiting for it to be like, well, yeah, it was Tommy, but I really do enjoy that, and I can't thank him enough for making that happen.
Yeah.
And I would love to do it again. It was just Jerry Lynn and Tommy are two of my favorites, just because of everything I learned from them.
Yeah.
And how well that I saw as a result of those matches, I was able to take things in a different direction to help my character. So.
All right, well, just wrapping things up here, I got one more question for you, and then you can plug all your social media. But
Okay.
So someone's aspiring to be a wrestler right now. They're sitting at home, a little Bailey. What's your advice to, not him specifically, but to a fan, or to somebody who's going, I want to be a professional wrestler. How do I get to the point where Darin's at, where he's being flown to Vegas, being flown to the West Coast up in Portland?
Well, my biggest thing is when you look for places, the most important thing is getting trained. Find something with credibility to get trained.
Yep.
The biggest thing is a lot of guys are just willing to take money, and you look at what you're going to get out of this place, because there are a lot of good schools that are doing great things, and they obviously, if they are where you want to be, that's where you go. Now, I was very lucky because, like, a lot of stuff in Minnesota, unfortunately, has dried up. There's a couple places now that are starting to, like, form some schools and get going and whatever. But I was very lucky where I was. Now, with that said, my biggest thing when I started, I knew from day one, no matter how much wrestling I watched, how much whatever, I knew I was stepping into a different world, and I didn't know anything about anything is what I went in. And I wanted
Don't go in being all smarky.
I was not going to be a know-it-all. I didn't want to I didn't want to feel like I knew, because
hey, man, I dropped my friend on his head in my backyard. I know what I'm doing.
Exactly. And, like, how many times, and then I realized it too, like, after I went through, how many of those guys come through and then they're gone in like a month. So I kept my ears open. I listened. I learned. I asked for advice all the time. I really take advantage of trying to, like, talk to people like, hey, what can I get out of this? What do you want to see me do? What can I do? Questions that I ask are very much so, how can I get better? I really appreciate when guys give me I didn't like this because of this. Here's what I would do instead.
Okay.
Because when somebody comes to you and they're like, I thought that was bad. Okay, why?
I just
didn't like it. Okay, that doesn't help you get better. That's always the advice I take. So I try to be like a sponge. I was very quiet on road trips, like, the first year.
As you should be.
Yeah, which was very funny because, like, my personality now in the ring, like, now I'm more comfortable, obviously, but yeah, like, I was very, very, very quiet when it came to a lot of that stuff, because I was just like, I want to listen and learn and see what they do, watch the show, find out. I always watch, so I suggest everyone do that. You never stop learning, and if you think you are done learning, it's probably time to get out.
All right, plug your social media. Where can they find you?
Sure. Okay, so Twitter, obviously, at Darin Corbin. That's easy. Instagram, at Darin Corbin as well. I do have my fan page on Facebook. My Facebook's just Darin Corbin.
Keeps it very simple.
Yeah, thank God I got it before, like, another Darin Corbin tried to snatch it up, too.
Yep.
YouTube, you can check out my videos for upcoming shows. That one's just, if you go and you look at the channels, it's just Darin Corbin TV, so very easy there. And then I guess also I should probably plug the store, because I've had a decent amount of my designs come up on Pro Wrestling Tees. So Pro Wrestling Tees, Darin Corbin is the store on there, so very easy to find everything. And I always post my schedule on my fan page, so you can find out where I'm coming up for the next couple shows.
Yep. And you can check them out on Fully Loaded TV on our YouTube channel. Click subscribe. Check us out on YouTube. F_L_wrestling. You know, we're not as streamlined as yours because our name's big. But hey, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Nope.
First champ, first podcast guest. Thanks for coming.
And only champ, so you're welcome.
There you go.
All right.
All right, well, there was my interview with FLW Heavyweight Champion Darin Corbin, and now is our goodbyes, and we can plug a few things for you here. We got Fully Loaded Wrestling on YouTube. That's Fully Loaded TV. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Mob Run Production and Sound. If you're a wrestler and you need highlight reels, video, entrance theme, custom made, mobrunrecords@gmail.com, or hit them up on facebook.com/mobrunprosound. Also like to thank doTERRA by Sheila. You can check out her website on our Facebook page. That's Fully Loaded Wrestling on Facebook. Tony?
Yeah, everyone, thanks for listening. Make sure you get out to the show. Any chance you get to, it's always a good time. Can't wait to see you here.
See you January 15th and 16th at the Williston Grand Hotel, where we will have Gangrel for FLW's Embrace the Darkness. See you there.